everybody. My name is Dr. Dakota Corbliss, and I am the Horn Professor at Appalachian State University in North Carolina. Dr. Ganong asked me to do a video on creating a poster or any kind of graphic design for an event or something you might be hosting in the future, and I thought it would be useful to show you guys how I made a poster for something that we're both involved in. Dr. Ganong is teaching trumpet and playing trumpet for us at the Brass Institutes of America in Fredericksburg this summer. And so I thought what might be cool is for you guys to see the finished product of a poster that I made in Adobe Illustrator, and I would just recreate it for you step by step over here on this blank canvas. So in terms of software, I'm using Adobe Illustrator, which is part of the Adobe Creative Cloud. And so what that can do for us is illustrating. You can get Photoshop, Adobe Premiere, Acrobat Reader if you buy the whole cloud, which is like, it's a subscription-based service, so it costs over $50 a month. If you're an educator or a student, it's only $20 a month, and also possibly if you're affiliated with a university, they might have a Creative Cloud license for you with your educational email account. So Appalachian has the Adobe Cloud as a license, which is great. But if you're looking for a software that can do essentially everything that we're going to do in this tutorial video, there's a software called Inkscape, which is completely free that you can buy off the internet. And the layout and the user interface is very, very similar to what we're going to be doing today with Adobe Illustrator. So if you want, you can download that and follow along. You won't have all these images that I have here, but most of the stuff in terms of like the format and the coloring and that sort of thing, you can do with Inkscape. So let's get started. So the first thing I want to do is just create the same background. So let's see how I've done this. It looks like... Okay, 70%. Okay, there's two ways we can achieve this. Let's first grab our rectangle tool and build a rectangle. Right now it's white. If we wanted a solid color, we could do this any which way we wanted. But we're going to go for a gradient so we can achieve the same thing over here. So I'm going to click the gradient tool, and I'm going to click freeform gradient because that's freeform over here. It's not, one color to the side or anything like that. It's freeform. But it looks like I only have two colors going on right here. So I'm going to get rid of some of these plot points. And I'm going to select the colors that we use. I'm going to double click on here. And like I said, you can pick any color you'd like. But I have a pre-saved color for our theme that we're doing this year with the one in Fredericksburg. I have the other color over here. And there we go. So we've achieved the colors. You can see that here, but it looks a little darker on this side here, this panel. So there's a couple things that looks about right. There's a couple things we can do to achieve the same kind of vibe that we're getting on this panel. One is we can just turn the opacity down to the whole thing. There's a white background, and so that's going to make it a little bit lighter, okay, which works okay. We can just adjust that. Oh, I see what I did here. So we're going to change this back to 100. So instead of picking each plot point's opacity, what we're going to do is we're going to over here to the right, and we're going to change the opacity of the whole thing. So this sort of achieves what we're going for. Another thing that we can do, this is still at 70. I don't want that. I want 100% on the green. And then I want the opacity of the whole thing to be 70. So there we go. So that looks much more like what we have going on over here. And we can still pull these points wherever we need them. They can go around. It's up to us. And so we'll say that that's pretty close. Another way you can achieve this, if you want to keep the entire thing at 100%, like this, is that you can put another rectangle on top. Here we are. Okay, it's the same size. We have a white rectangle, and what we can do is we can just turn the opacity down on this, and then we achieve something similar here. That's pretty close. But so I can minimize the layers, we're just going to turn this down to 70% like that. So the next thing we can do is probably our text. Okay, this is going to be pretty simple. I'm using a font called Cinzel, which is a Google font, which you can download for free. For brevity's sake, let's type all this in. Presents. Okay, obviously it's going to be white. Okay, and it looks like it's center justified, And let's see what size we have here. So the font here is 40 point, and here it's 32. So we'll do that here just because we want to match, and I didn't want to play a guessing game. 40, 32. Okay, and this is one unit here. And so say we want this centered, we can go over here to our alignment tool and do that. Now it looks like the font doesn't quite match, so it must be a type of Cinzel font that is different. Let's make sure we have that centered again. So this is bold, and I don't think we want bold. See what regular looks like. Yeah, that's much closer. So now we have our Brass Institutes of America Presents, which is similar. And over here on this side, you can see that I did these separately, because I think at one point I designed the poster where the text was in the middle here, but we're going to leave it at the top, put it back where it was. And we're going to get another text box and go Fred Brass 2022. Put the dates in there. And where it's being hosted. And this is the most important information that you have on your poster. You have the title of the event, you have the dates of the event, and you have the location of the event. So this should be the stuff that, in terms of text, draws somebody's eye. This is the biggest thing on this entire poster here. And so we want to make sure that that's going to stand out. So we make it as big as we can with probably a bolder font. Let's see. If that's 40, we'll say this is 48 or so. Looks about right. This is probably also 48. That looks a little bit bigger than that. Let's say that this is 54. And it looks like it's probably bold. What's this semi-bold? There we go. This is also semi-bold. And that looks a little bit bigger in terms of text as well. Cool. So we'll go with that. That looks pretty close. We're going to center that again over here at the alignment tool. And if we wanted this to be offset, we could do this and move it over. But we like it centered here. We're going to justify it. Cool. So that's all pretty close. This might be a little bit smaller than what we have over here, but we'll roll with it for now. So the next thing that we're going to want to do is get all these boxes squared away. So what I like to do is create one box, and then kind of for all the boxes that are the same size. So for example, we have this box and this box and this box are all rectangular. And so I just like to use one and then copy and paste and then change the size how we need to, or the colors or whatever. So we have this over here. There should be actually a link down here, so we'll put that at the end. We'll make it a little bit taller. And as you can see on these white boxes, they're not quite fully opaque. So let's say they're 50%. That looks close. Okay, we'll do that. We have another one over here with the University of Mary Washington logo. That's also about 50%. And up here, well, I think they're probably all the same, so we'll do this. And that's going to be centered down here with this box. It looks like we have essentially two columns here on the page. So that looks decent. Let's fill these in. So I'm going to copy this. I'm going to, there's two ways I can do this. I can either look at the measurements of this box. Okay, so that's pretty specific. So let's do this instead. 3.6 and 2.2. Okay. And so we have the white box, but we want that green box right behind it. So we're just going to increase the margins just a hair. So let's say 3.8 and 2.4. I didn't get the 0.4 over here. Okay. What we can do is we can change the color of this and the fill to that, you know, any of these colors if we want, but we want this green color. And we're going to put that behind the screen box. And so when we get the intersect point, that means it's going to be centered on top of it. Now, unfortunately, the green box is on top of the white box, and that's not what we want. So there's a couple ways we can do this. We can go to here, right click on it and arrange it. We can send it backwards. Okay, so that's control and then the left bracket. And it looks like we have a couple layers here. So I'm going to use the shortcut, which is control left bracket until we get behind it. Good. It looks like this white box is actually a little bit darker than we originally thought, because over here it looks like the green is bleeding through the front. So we're going to up the opacity here to, let's say, 80. That looks a little too much. That looks pretty close, so we're going to roll with that. We need more text. We're still using the Cinzel font for most of this poster. All right, and then the text is the blue font. We can change that here. You can, if we shift click this, it will change the font and format it all together. Now it looks like that looks about right. Looks like there might be a little bit more spacing. We can increase the spacing between lines here. Okay, so if we want that to fit a little bit better, but that's pretty close. Okay, this might be a little bit more opaque, so we'll go 75%. Cool. So that's pretty similar. Let's see if I can find out exactly what the color is here. Yep, that's the same color. So how close did we get? Let's see the opacity here, 75%, pretty good. The green opacity is 50. Let's see what we did over here. Good, 50, 75%, 100%. Cool. So now what I like to do when I have a whole unit that is, going to move together is I group them. So that means whenever I drag it, I'll drag the whole thing rather than having to drag the text box, the white box, and the green box. So they all move together now. Let's get that realigned with the bottom box. If that doesn't work as well, you can shift click on both of these units here and you can align them to the selection rather than to the entire artboard. Okay, and then align them up center. They already are centered, so let me show you what it would look like without that. Align to the selection. There you go. Now they're centered over top of each other. Okay, so we have that one done. Now let's do this one. So we have another box. Let's see if we can get easier dimensions here. So we'll go with 3.6. That's already pretty close. Okay, and then let's go 3.6. Looks a little wider. So we'll go 3.7 here. We'll go 3.7 here, and we'll go 3.9 on the bottom one for the height. That looks pretty close. Okay, now we need a blue box that's a little bit smaller than that. So let's go with 3.5 and 3.7. I'll put that on top. Now in this case, this box is on top of the white one, so we can do that. And the opacity will be a little bit less. Let's say 75%, just like the blue one. That looks about right, so we'll roll with that for now. It looks like this box is a little bit wider, so I'm going to click both of these, widen it, make it a little taller. Okay, now I don't know if these are quite centered, so I'm going to go ahead and align them together, and that looks better. Cool. So let's add a text box. So, type that out for you. It's white. Now, the cool thing about all these text boxes, I didn't change it. Fill, white, okay. The cool thing about working within these text boxes is I can highlight this and change the font. So I think only this part is semi-bold, so I'm going to leave that. I'm going to change everything else to regular Cinzel. Okay, but it looks like maybe this portion here is a little bit of a smaller font. So we'll go with, yeah, that looks okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this whole thing, shift click it so it doesn't change the proportions. I'm going to make this try to fit in this box. And then we can reevaluate how we did with our text. So looks like this one can be a little bit bigger. But I'm just going to make it big enough so it fits in the box. That's probably about right. This is good. And then this can probably be a little bit bigger. Remember I talked about changing the spacing before. So we're going to just widen this a little bit. There we go. And so it's not quite exactly the same size, but it's pretty close. So I'm happy with that. We're going to move on from there. And then let's do this last box. So we have the white box, and this actually looks a little bit big. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to copy paste this. That didn't work. Control C, Control V, there we go. And I'm going to change this one to the green one, the background color. Okay, and we're at 50 here, and then I'm going to make this, let's see what we have here. We'll change this to 5.1, and we'll do 2.1. Adobe's yelling at me. 2.1. Okay. So then let's make this 4.9 and 1.9. And we can sit this on top, and I'm going to do it over here just to show you how that works. So we're aligning to the two selections now instead of the artboard. So I'm going to vertically align it and horizontally align it together. This is a little bit wider than the one over here, but I'm going to up the opacity here. Good. And then, oops. Let me select these and group them now so they'll move together. I'm going to align that. Both Inkscape and Adobe Illustrator do a good job of snapping stuff together. So it's intersecting over here, which is okay, but actually what I want is, let me make sure I grouped all these. Group. Okay, and what I want is for these to be aligned on the bottom. Okay, so that one just pulled down if you noticed. I'll put it back. If I hit the vertical align bottom button, then this one will come down and align to the bottom of that. Now what I'm going to do on my other screen that you can't see is find the logo for University of Mary Washington. Let's see if this is the right one. That's the white one. So that's not what we want over here. And there, okay, so this is what we call a JPEG. And so it doesn't have a transparent background, and that's probably why I used it with a white background. And so what we're going to do is we're going to put this in the center here. Okay, because I probably have a transparent one. No, that's not right one. Well, that's okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to throw this behind this white box. So we're going to use that control left bracket. Ah, okay, I do have the transparent one. Okay, cool. So we're going to get rid of this one. And then we're going to bring this one down. And we're going to center it with that selection. There we go, both vertically and horizontally. And then we're going to group them all together. And there we go, there we have it. And so when we zoom in on it, it's a much clearer picture. When you print this, it'll look a lot better than what it looks like on the screen. But cool, so we've got this, we've got these three boxes, and now here's where things get fun. So over on this side right here, we have our entire faculty lineup. Okay, so these are the three directors. There's me. There's our artistic director, Buddy Deschler, and our director of program development, Sam Ambrose. We have our low brass faculty here, trombone, Miles Blakemore, Brianna, Andrew. Tim is our conductor. There's Dr. Ganong playing trumpet, Carrie Schaefer, Kenneth Johnson, Robert Sears, and Juan Barrios are the horn faculty. So we have all 12 faculty here. And so what we want to do is make sure that all of these look uniform. So because I don't particularly want to play a guessing game with how big these are, and you don't want to watch me do that, I'm going to change the opacity here to 50, and then I'm going to figure out exactly how big this box is. 1.2182. Okay. Had to get specific apparently. 1.2182. And then I'm going to do that here. 1.2182. Okay. Oops. And then what I need, apparently, is 12 of these. So, control copy. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay. And what I might do, yeah, I'm going to do this. Just so I don't have to worry about, I don't want them to be circles. So I'm just going to drag them all over here. And I want to work off to the side. And then when I'm done, I can group all this stuff together. And then just drag it onto the poster. I made one too many. Okay, so this looks terrible. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start grouping these in threes. I'm going to align them vertically, which it seems they already have. And there's another thing that you can use. You can distribute the objects. So let's do this. Will be easier to see. So these are all messed up, right? And so what I want to do is align them here. And if I do this, they'll all come to the middle, which is not what I want, right? So they're aligned vertically, which means that on this axis they're all together. And so what I want to do is make it so there's an even amount of space in between the three. So what I'm going to do is click these three dots over here, and you see it distribute. And what we can do is we can distribute the spacing between them. So these are now an even amount of space between the three. Okay? And so I can do this the hard way, which is doing this, aligning them with the center, and I can align them here. What I'm actually going to do is I'm going to vertically align all three of these. Make sure these are all together. Okay, and then what I want to do is align the outside ones. Okay, and you can see here, when I do that, hopefully I didn't, but when you saw those, the distance, it meant that it was vertically distributed. So what I can do is just line these up, and you can see here that 0.2763 is the same distance between the two rows, so we're going to add a third row here. Okay, like I said, these programs are very good at doing this. You're intersecting vertically. Amazing. Okay, but what we don't see here is that we have the right amount of distance here, but obviously this is not a line, so I need to move that over till it lines up. And you can see both sets of arrows now, which is awesome. Okay, so now we have our panel, which is awesome. So what I need to do, comparative to this one, is to get everybody's picture into these boxes. So we'll do this one by one, and you'll see how difficult this can be if you don't crop beforehand. But if they're square, then it makes it a little bit easier. So I'm going to worry less about where they are on the picture and more about just getting them on top of our panel over here. So I'm going to import everybody's picture. Derek's. Okay. Awesome headshot. Brianna. Me. One. So make sure you click shift whenever you do this so it keeps the proportions. If not, then you get like this, which is not what you want to see. Okay, we have Sam. Tim. Let's see. Kenneth. Carrie. Let's see. We have Buddy. Okay. go? Roberts. And Miles. Where is Miles? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I just need Miles. Okay, and here's Miles. Okay, cool. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, here's all 12. So I'm going to do the square ones first because those are a little bit easier, and we won't worry about that. So I believe we won't worry about where they go. 1.1. Okay, cool. So that's what we're aiming for with all of these. We want all of these to be square headshots that are 1.1 by 1.1 inches. So do that. Juan's face gets smushed until we fix it. Okay. We'll put him on top of this one. It's Andrew. Me. Center, great. Square, Tim's a square. Brianna's a square. Oops, what did I do here? Oh, 11 inches. There we go. Sam's a square. Okay, and I'm missing. There it is, Kenneth. Okay, so Carrie's is close, but not quite. So I'll work in terms of difficulty here. So Carrie's is really close. And so what we need to do is we need to crop it so we get a square. And we want to make sure we're not cropping like, if I crop this and I need a square. So say I want this to be, it's as wide as it is right now is 3.1746. So say I want the same exact dynamics or proportions. There's a square. That's all good and well, but Kenneth's face is kind of small in this sense compared to everybody else's if I was to take this and just make it smaller. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to make it a little bit smaller, the cropping area, so I get more of his face. And we can center it if we want, but we'll keep it offset because that's how he took the picture, so I'm going to try to honor that as much as I can. So there's Kenneth's, and it looks a little pixely here, but when we save it, it'll be fine. Carrie's is really close. Okay, you can see the dimensions here are very similar. So say I want to crop that. Don't need to see this anymore. And that's pretty close. So I'm pretty happy with that. I'm going to find the exact same. Okay, I'm going to apply that, and we're going to change that to here. Okay, let's do Miles. Okay. A lot of headshots come about this size. You can see Derek's and Robert's are all the same. Buddy's is the same. It's just flipped landscape style instead of portrait. So, same deal. We're going to crop this. I kind of liked that width. Okay, so we're going to leave that. And we're going to make the height the same. Okay, and then we're going to just move this a little bit to here. And then we're going to resize it. Okay. Derek is another one. Derek's headshot is great with these wings, but it's hard to keep the picture the cool because it takes up the whole image right here. And so I'd ask Derek if he'd prefer to see his face or if he would prefer to see the picture, because let's say he prefers to see his face, then what I might need to do is something like this. Okay. And apply it. Or if he prefers to see the wings, then his face is going to be smaller. But we're going to have to get all the width that we can here, and then also make the height match it. Okay, so the height's going to be 2.6. Okay, and so we have that. So we'll roll with that. Say he wants to make sure the wings stay in the picture. So Derek also is awesome, and he sends me like a bunch of different headshots. I have this one as well, if I wanted to use that. If I wanted to get rid of that. But Derek makes life easy for me. He sends me a lot of pictures that I can pick from. So we'll roll with this for now. And we got to make sure that it's the same size as everything else. It can fit here. Okay. We have Robert. Let's do something like that. Make the height match that. Okay, I can't see what Robert plays here though, so maybe I need to make this a bigger square. Now I can see that he plays the trumpet. Okay. Okay, and then Buddy. Buddy's got an awesome backdrop here, but unfortunately I'm going to get rid of a lot of it so we can see his face. Because on the poster, this is going to be a relatively small part of it, so I want to make sure that we can see everybody. Let's do this. Okay, so doing just a quick... If I had more time and I wasn't trying to make you guys watch a 3-hour-long video, I would check all these a little bit more closely. But, so this one is not centered. But they all look pretty good. Okay, so I'm going to take this. I'm going to group it so they all move together now, which is great. I'm going to put that here. And so it looks like we have our dimensions off a little bit compared to this poster. So let's move that up a little bit. We can move this whole thing up a little bit more. We can move this down too if we wanted. But overall, now what I want to make sure is that these are all centered. So I'm going to do that. Great. So we have the left side of our thing done. Obviously the pictures are in a different order, and you can see the spacing is a little bit different. That's probably why we had to move this stuff. There's more space in between our headshots here than over here, but that's okay. Want to move this down and align it with that. Okay. So now we need to get our artists in there. So we have another white box as the background. Let's say we'll make it, 2 by 2. Okay, probably the same opacity. And we need 4 of these. Copy. Okay. So same deal, I'm going to work over here on the side. Now we want to make sure that I leave enough space for the text there. So they're going to be a little offset. So we can get their name in there. And right now it's trying to intersect with things that are on this artboard, which is slightly frustrating, but that's okay. So now we have it centered with the 2. Cool. So these are all in alignment. And I'm going to grab our artist photos. Let's see. Designs. Okay, and what's great is that I have square versions of all of these on hand, so I can just use these, and you guys don't have to watch me crop them all. Hi, Craig. Richards. Okay. Let's see, how do we have these? Okay. So I think these were 2. So let's make this 1.8 by 1.8. Okay. We've done that. So like I said, I would look at this a little longer if I had more time. But that looks good. So we'll roll with that. I want to make sure that I have all these artist names in here. Okay. And there's a couple ways I could do this. I'm going to do them separately. Let's see how I did over here. Yeah, okay, so I did them as their own boxes. Good. So this gives me a little bit more functionality when I want to align things. So this is centered now, which is great. The text is going to be white on that background, and I think it's italicized over there. So, oh, and I use a Helvetica font. So we'll do that. Go with italic. Okay. Good. We could probably make this a little bit bigger. Center that there. And so what I like to do is when I have already, done the font and the italicization and the size, I'm just going to copy that text box and just change it for each person. So, and see. Obviously this isn't aligned, so I want that aligned here. Good. Okay, let's say we're going to group this. We'll group this. Okay, I'm gonna add another one here for Craig. Oops. And for Jason. All right, let's make sure these are aligned together. Does that change anything? Oops. Okay, these are aligned already. I want to make sure that these are aligned. And these are aligned. So now what we can do is we can group this, group that. Okay. And we want to make sure that this is aligned with this. Okay. This. That these two are aligned together. Okay. And then what we can do is we can these are two columns, so obviously like the space, or hold on, let me group these. Okay, so these are two columns that are now grouped, and so the spacing is not going to change where I put this, but I do want to make sure that they're aligned across the top. So I will do this, and now we have a box. I can just do this, group them all together, and then I can drag them over. Okay, we've taken up too much room. So there's a couple things I'm going to do here. First is I'm going to ungroup these two, and yeah, the columns still stay, so I'm going to move this over. And then make sure that these are aligned again. If I have to, what I might need to do is limit the space right here. But let's see what happens. If I do this, maybe I just make it all a little smaller. And then what I want to do is make sure that this and this is aligned horizontally. But yeah, a little bit different proportions. The picture's a little bit bigger on this side, but it's pretty much the right poster. So actually, I don't know where this went, so I'm going to add it back. I want that there so people know where the website is. And I'm going to use that Cinzel font again. And we're just going to make it fit across the bottom of the poster here. It's probably too big, but I can bring it over here. Cool. So now let me center that. And oh, we're missing our mouthpiece. Okay. Let me do the mouthpiece, because that's a pretty cool thing that we've added in there. One moment. This loads. And here's my mouthpiece. All right. So we want this mouthpiece. You can see the missing thing here. Anyways, we want this mouthpiece, but we want it to be, let's say, yay big, and we want it to get cut off a little bit. So we have it maybe a little bit bigger. And like that or so. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to do is crop it. So we want everything that's on the page. That's going to be there. Okay, and if we, okay, we're good. But we can see the border of the poster here, so we can move it on top of that a little bit more. So unfortunately, it's covering everything. So we want to send it backwards. And one thing you can do is you can, we've talked about this before, you can send it backward one by one, or you can send it all the way to the back and then bring it forward until it's in the right spot. So I'm going to send it all the way to the back here. And because our background is not 100% opaque, it doesn't get covered. If I made it 100%, it'd be gone, right? And then I need to bring it forward. But since the background's not 100% opaque, I don't need to worry about that. I'm actually going to bring it back here so I can reselect it. I'll send it to the back. And it's a little bit darker than this one, so I can actually change the opacity of that image as well. We'll say 80%. Ooh, that looks pretty close. Let's do 75. Cool. So, and you can see right here that's hanging over a little bit. Sloppy on my part. That's okay. When I print them, it's not going to be hanging off the side of the paper. So that's pretty close. Maybe a little bit, maybe even a little bit less opaque, but yeah, and maybe the other thing I could do is I could make this one a little bit more opaque. Oops. So the mouthpiece doesn't come through as much. So cool. There you have it. There's a poster. There's probably a typo on here somewhere, but hopefully there's not. And you saw me type it, but that's okay. So that's pretty much how I design posters for our festivals or anything else I'm doing. Once you understand how the tools work, it can be really straightforward. I probably used maybe 4% of what this software is capable of. But I made, in my opinion, a pretty good looking poster. So we have all of our information we need right here. There's scholarships available. It's a big thing for our festivals. We're doing a conducting fellowship here. And so if they want to learn more about that, they can go on the website. I have the link. I have the logo of the university where we're hosting the festival. And then I have all of our faculty and guest artists pictured prominently on the poster as well. So I think I have all the information that I need right there. And it points all of our potential participants to our website where they can find information about tuition and housing and meals and all that sort of thing. So this is how you create a poster. If you have any questions for me, you can feel free to reach out to me at my email address, which is Corbliss, C-O-R-B as in boy, L-I-S-S, D-C, at appstate.edu, and I would be happy to help you with any kind of design stuff you have. So thank you so much for your time. Hopefully you learned a little bit today. Thanks.